It's Dreyer again, and this week I'm going to answer a question from Otto Gous. His question is, it seems that the new Credit Act is making it more difficult for the average man with an existing bond to apply for finance. And he has a question, how can one get around this obstacle and get a bond or loan on investment properties? Before I'm going to answer the question, I first want to make a comment. Otto, I'm a wealth creator, and I teach willing people how to become wealth creators too. Now, a wealth creator is not average. In fact, I think they almost hated to be average because unless you have a passion not to be average, you will never be able to retire financially rich. Because, Otto, average people do not get rich. So I want you to change your mindset before I answer your question, because average people will never do what I teach, and that's why they are average. They will always find excuses for not doing the basic things, like following the formula for riches or to do the calculations before they invest in property. The only way to apply the formula for riches when it comes to property investments is to use the Property Pro investment program, and there is no other way. But average people will not believe this. They always know better. And this is perhaps why they're average. So if you want to be average, living an average life, and retire like every other average person, poor, then please exit the site now, because you, like every other average person, will not do the things that wealth creators are doing. So if you're still with me, and I assume that you want to be a wealth creator, then I will answer your question. The new Credit Act does not apply for trusts, closed corporations or Pty Limiteds. But by now, Otto, you should know that the average person do not have a trust or any other business entity. And even if they do have financial entities, I can say from personal experience that the average person knows very little about trust and financial entity in general. If you want to know more about trust and financial entities, I will strongly advise you to visit www.mytrust.co.za. Now, let me ask you a question. Why would average investors want to get around this obstacle or the new Credit Act? The only reason I can think of is because they do not understand the formula for riches. You see, a wealth creator knows that property investment has nothing to do with how many properties you have or how much debt or bonds you've got. It is about how you let your money work for you without taking risks. If you are spending 30% of your income on bond repayments, then you are taking a risk. People in South Africa are spending more than 72% of their income on debt repayments. And this is, as far as I'm concerned, a serious risk. So how can you spend less than 30% on bond repayments and still get rich? Let me demonstrate it by comparing two properties using the Property Pro investment program. And I'm going to make the assumption that you know how the Property Pro investment program works. In other words, you've done the Property Pro investment one-day workshop, or at least you've bought the property investment DVD course and at least has gone through it. By the way, if you haven't done so, we are running a special promotion on the Executive Property Investment Program, so you can go to this website, or of course you can phone my office for more detail. I've recently compared two properties for a family member, and my advice was not to buy any of the properties simply because I know they could find a far better deal. But let me show you the outcome of the two properties just to illustrate my point. And perhaps I must mention to you before we begin that they qualify for a bond of approximately 900,000 Rand because their total income is 38,000 Rand, and 30% of that gives us approximately, at current interest rates, a bond of 900,000 Rand. The first property is Amanda Hills, and the price is 890,000 Rand. So Amanda Hills, and it's 890,000 Rand. And the second property is called Straat, with a price of 840,000 Rand. Now, the first property was in a better area, but the IRR on this property was 14.6% on average over a 5-year term. Although the second property was in an average area, in other words, the capital growth was not as good as in the first scenario, we could apply one or two twists to it. So the IRR on this investment was 37.64%. That we've calculated the growth on both properties, Let's do a projection and see what the difference would be in, say, 10 years' time on the investment that they would make. So first, let's have a look. 890,000 Rand at 14% over a 20-year term. That means the bond repayments will be 11,067 Rand and 34 cents. 30% of that means that the salary must be more than 36,891 Rand and 12 cents. So if we take 11,000 Rand, 11,067 Rand, in 10 years' time at 14.6%, we're going to find that the maturity value or the future value is going to be 2,972,888 Rand and 90 cents. However, if they can invest the same amount, the 11,067 Rand, but this time at 37%, the maturity value is going to be 14,109,287 Rand and 67 cents. This, it represents a difference of 11,136,398 Rand. And although this difference of more than 11 million is simply because they know how to evaluate different property investments before they make financial commitments. And this is where most people go wrong. They buy on emotion. But I want to reverse engineer the calculation just to show you something. If I want to get to 2.9 million, as in the first scenario, but we know that we can get 37%, okay? How much money do I need to invest to get to 2.9 million? And the answer, of course, is 2,331 Rand and 94 cents. Now, Otto, this is approximately 21% of the original 11,000 Rand investment. So if you do not know the formula for riches and you do not know how to evaluate an investment, or you do not want to use a Property Pro investment program and therefore invest in the wrong kind of investment, then you need to invest a lot more than 30% of your income in property if you want to become rich. I want you to have a close look at the next picture and tell me how much money do you think I've invested in this property. And whilst you're looking at it, I think it's important to know that I do not have a bond on this property. In other words, it's paid for in cash. The answer, Otto, is 79 cents in total. Now let me ask you a question, Otto. Why do you want to find a way around the New Credit Act? Why do you not rather find out how investments work? If you are serious to not being average and you want to know more about my mentoring course, then of course you can go to www.hannesdreyer.co.za, or if you want to learn more about investments, you can go to learntoinvestmoney.com with dashes in between. Thank you for your time. I hope you've learned something.